Welcome back to Dirty 20, everyone. Today we take a look at one of the most intriguing monsters in the Monster Manual, the evil fiends known as the Rakshasa. Let's get on with the show. Thanks for joining us, lovely people. Now, let's be honest. For most of us that came across D&D as kids, the monsters in the Monster Manual were a huge part of what first attracted us to the game. The incredible, sometimes beautiful, often terrifying creatures that you can choose to make up the villains in your campaigns are plentiful. So we have decided to highlight some of our favorites and perhaps some of the lesser known creatures but that are still very cool in the Monster Manual, and also how you might include them in your campaigns. This week, we kick things off with one of my favorite pieces of art from the Monster Manual, the Rakshasa. Inspired by shape-shifting spirits from Hindu mythology, in the 5e Monster Manual, they were originally created by devils down in the Nine Hells, as a way for those devils, or at least a part of their essence, to make it onto the material plane. Once there, they satisfied their hunger for human flesh. And quite honestly, drama? That's right, the Rakshasa love nothing more than scheming and plotting. In fact, they very rarely reveal their true forms. That of a humanoid tiger. But with the hands the wrong way around? Yeah, I know, it's weird, but it's really classic D&D, so my advice is just go with it. The point is that these guys are very likely to disguise themselves. Which brings me to my first idea on how I think I would try and use these guys in one of my campaigns. First though, looking at the challenge rating of the Rakshasa as a challenge rating of 13, this is something that we discussed in a previous video on understanding monster stat blocks. I recommend you check it out, link in the description below. But this tells me that a low-level party would have no option of surviving a combat encounter if they were to come up against the Rakshasa. But this, I think, works in the favor of the Rakshasa as a kind of villain that is more long-term rather than a one combat encounter and done sort of creature. So I would introduce the Rakshasa as a adversarial noble that perhaps the party would come up against in a court intrigue style adventure at low levels and maybe thwart him for him to come back later revealing himself. So for example, our campaign that we originally started discussing when we did our series on firsts, and we got to about level 3, but the thing that kicked us off was the kidnapping of a local nobleman's daughter. Now, perhaps our party, after rescuing the girl, discover that she is not actually the noble's daughter, but her ward. And that the disappearance of his ward would actually be quite beneficial to this noble, thereby leading us into this court intrigue. Look no further to things like Game of Thrones or history itself to come up with some great plot bits. Plot bits? Plot hooks. Moments. You know what I'm saying. Now, I think that this in and of itself would make for a really good adventure thread, but I think there's more there that the Rakshasa can give you, because they are the kind of villain that can come back and should come back. Even if they are killed, a Rakshasa's essence, the part of them that is the devil, returns to the Nine Hells through this torturous journey, and their body recomposes and they can re-enter the material world once the body has entirely reformed. Now, this can take months or years, but the point is that eventually the Rakshasa will be back and he will be burning with the fury and all the memories from his previous life of the people who sent him back to hell. And so he is going to want revenge on your party, making for an amazing returning villain. And they will keep coming back again and again, plotting and scheming, unless the party actually goes to the Nine Hells and kills them there. Is it just me, or does that sound like an epic finale to a campaign? But before we jump into our next section, please make sure you have subscribed if you haven't already, and click the bell icon so you receive notifications whenever we upload new videos. Okay then guys, so instead of building a character as we usually do in this series, where we are going to be looking at monsters, we're going to take the second part to take a deeper look at the monster stat block and see how you might best utilize them. Now, as we mentioned before, the Rakshasa, which is on page 257 of the monster manual, has a challenge rating of 13. Now, that makes them fairly tough. Their HP of 110 is not overly impressive, but remember that that is an average. The Rakshasa your party faces might be extraordinarily tough. So it's 13d8 plus 52. Just max out the d8s and add 52 to it, and that is within the expected range, right? But where you start to really understand how tough they can be is when you're looking at damage immunities a little bit further down. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, meaning that if it's not magical damage, he is taking half of whatever you're rolling. Now, he does have a vulnerability to piercing damage from magical weapons wielded by good creatures. And, you know, I guess in a weird way, although you might think that that's a big detriment to the Rakshasa as a potential villain, I think it's a nice piece of information that you can kind of crumble some breadcrumbs for your players to follow, maybe through myth or lore that they learn about, or maybe through a quest to gain a magical weapon to finally deal with the menace of the Rakshasa. I even like the idea that he would lie and claim to be the only Rakshasa around. But yeah, maybe creating that storyline where you discover that there's maybe a particular weapon that might be able to defeat this creature, and you go on a quest to pick it up. I like that. I think that's definitely a cool thing that you can incorporate into your campaign. Which brings me to his plus 10 on deception and plus 8 on insight, making him a fantastic character to use in social encounters. Again, going back to this idea of introducing him as a noble who's plotting to take power, and the party's there to thwart him in these early moments when they first encounter him. Now, he also has limited magic immunity, which will actually make it really hard to unmask him. The Rakshasa can't be affected or detected by spells of 6th level or lower unless it wishes to be. It has advantage on saving throws against all other spells and magical effects. So, you know, even if the characters believe that there's something up with this guy, you know, he's going to be really hard to unmask. And he is a mean spellcaster. Now, I really love what they've done with the monster stat blocks, because they've kept this from 4th edition, which is the at will, what they used to call encounter powers, in this case 3 times each day, and once each day, which were your daily powers. Now, this was a really nice and simple way of keeping track of the things that you could do in an encounter, and I like that they've kept that for the monsters that the DM runs. He also doesn't require material components to cast spells. I mean, he's a badass spellcaster. Suffice it to say that this guy can be places and no one will know. He will almost always have an advantage in terms of knowing what the party might be thinking. And he will almost always have a way out. That plane shift is, you know, it's a get out of jail free card kind of thing. Now, is it me, or does he not sound like the perfect villain? In actual combat, we can see his actions here. He isn't anything that special. He's got the multi-attack, making 2 claw attacks, +7 to hit, and 2d6 +2 slashing damage. But the interesting bit is, once again, it's the long-term impact that a combat encounter with the Rakshasa would have that makes him interesting. With its magical curse causing long-term damage. So the target is cursed if it is a creature. The magical curse takes effect whenever the target takes a short or long rest, filling the target's thoughts with horrible images and dreams. The cursed target gains no benefit from finishing a short or long rest. The curse lasts until it is lifted by a remove curse spell or similar magic. Now, believe it or not, if you can't recover anything, whether it's hit points, spell slots, key points, you name it, then that will just become your sole concern. And you will have to fix that before you can really do anything else. So, again, lasting impact from a potential villain that can come back again and again and again. There we have it, lovely people. What are your thoughts on the Rakshasa as a possible villain for your campaign? What other monsters would you like to see us cover? Let us know in the comments down below. Take care, and as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. @MouthLaVictoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am EnanoLVP, and our producer is Jazzy J. Cherot. We're also La Victoria Productions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Come on by and let us know what you think.